On Sunday, Ecuadorian presidential candidates began the electoral campaign for the runoff elections. In Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney called for a snap election for April 28th. And in Palestine, a new Israeli attack caused an explosion in a Gaza refugee camp. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. The National Electoral Council of Ecuador modified the calendar of the runoff elections and moved forward the official start of the campaign to Sunday, March 23rd, the same day of the debate between candidates. The current president of Ecuador and candidate for National Democratic Action, Daniel Noboa, and the candidate of the Citizens Revolution Movement, Luisa González, face again on Sunday's debate for the ballotage to be held next April 13th. In 2023, during the first debate, González came as a favorite after being in first position in the first round with 33.61% of the votes against Noboa's 23.47%, although it was he who ended up winning the election in the second round. On Sunday's debate, education, health and social security, crime and security, economy and employment, as well as governance will be the issues to be discussed on the mandatory meeting. And with just a few weeks to go ahead of the runoff election in Ecuador, candidates Luisa González of Citizens Revolution Movement and Daniel Noboa, president and candidate of National Democratic Action, are set to hold a presidential debate this Sunday night.
More than 11 million people took part in the first round of elections in Ecuador, but since none of the candidates reached the majority of the votes, a runoff election will be required in accordance with the electoral laws of the country, which establishes that for a candidate to be the winner in the first round, he or she must obtain 50% of the votes plus one, or at least 40% with a 10-point advantage over the second place. After a technical tie in the first round, the runoff ballot will be between Daniel Noboa, the current president, supported by the National Democratic Action Party, who obtained 44.17% of the votes in the first round, and Luisa González of the Citizens Revolution Party, who obtained 44%, a difference of less than 70,000 votes according to official data by the National Electoral Council of the country. The mandatory presidential debate of the second round will take place on Sunday, March 23, and will be broadcasted on national radio and television. Unlike the first debate, this time a segment of closed questions will be incorporated in the methodology. The official political campaign starts on March 23 and will run until April 10th. González's campaign focuses on the call to revive Ecuador, reestablish key institutions such as the Ministry of Justice and Security, combat organized crime, and promote an equitable economic model. Noboa, for his part, proposes security and economic development and the fight against corruption in Ecuador. However, his campaign has been marked by several controversies, from breaches of the law, benefits for family members at the expense of the public treasury, or the recent alliance with Eric Prince, U.S. mercenary founder of the private military company Blackwater, to allegedly confront organized crime. This process is taking place in an environment marked by electoral violence. From January 2024 to February 2025, a total of 56 aggressions have been declared, including 25 murders, according to the most recent preliminary report on political violence in the 2025 elections presented by the Citizen Observatory on this issue.
In this context, let's recall the trajectory of the two presidential candidates running in the second round of the Ecuadorian elections, among them current President Daniel Noboa, who is opting to be re-elected. Precisely, Noboa, the son of billionaire Álvaro Noboa Pontón and candidate for the National Democratic Action, obtained 44.17% of votes in first round of elections. During his term in office, he has used presidential decrees to militarize the streets and facilitate the security of entrepreneurs in the ports. His administration has been marked by a multidimensional crisis in the political sphere, but also bringing about economic recession, high levels of insecurity, and energy deficit. His previous electoral campaign was characterized by the violation of constitutional statutes and the lack of compliance with electoral regulations. Furthermore, in a desperate measure, Noboa militarized the northern and southern borders in the middle of his past electoral run under the pretext of fighting armed groups. And Luisa Gonzalez, a 47-year-old lawyer and former assemblywoman, is seeking the presidency of Ecuador in the April 13 runoff elections, backed by tight results during the first round and strong popular support. Gonzalez has 2 master's degrees, one in senior management from the Instituto de Altos Estudios Nacionales and another in international economics from the Complutense University of Madrid. With 44% of votes obtained in the first round of presidential elections, Gonzalez proposes a government focused on 5 axes: justice for good living, security and order, economic well-being with equal opportunities, the fight against corruption, and ecological justice and energy transition for a clean and sustainable future. Representing progressive, social and leftist forces, Luisa Gonzalez has expressed her commitment to the real needs of the people, vowing to ensure access to health, education, and giving out credits to encourage youth entrepreneurship. And moving on to other news, in Colombia, where 60,000 people have been displaced by the escalation of violence in the Catatumbo region. The government of North Santander assured that 772 people from Catatumbo had to be rescued in humanitarian flights due to the difficult access to the zones where the confrontations have taken place. He also warned that more than 16,000 people are confined to their homes in the areas where the conflict is taking place. The clashes between armed groups, which began on January 16, 2025, have killed over 90 people, among them civilians, minors, peace signatories, and social leaders. And the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, presided Sunday the commemoration of the 146th anniversary of the heroic defense of Calama. In this context, the Bolivian head of state vindicated his nation's inalienable right to return to the Pacific coast with sovereignty. As part of the tributes, unpaid Bolivians have laid wreaths of flowers on the Eduardo Abaroa's monument in Sopocachi area in La Paz capital. Eduardo Abaroa was the leader in the historical defense against the Chilean invasion on the War of the Pacific in the beginnings of the 1880s. Afterwards, President Arce raised the tricolor flag and lit the bowtie flame. In addition, a civic military parade is underway and a presidential keynote address is expected later on Sunday. And the Ecuadorian government registered a new league of oil derivatives in the Amazon province of Napo. The Ministry of Energy and Mines detailed that the personnel of the Ecuadorian Electric Corporation and Petro Ecuador have been working on placing a floating barrier in the Coca River. The spill jeopardizes the infrastructure of the country's main hydroelectric plant, which is operational and generates 1,100 megawatts to the national power grid. In this context, on social media, citizens have questioned the government for justifying these events by arguing that they were intentionally triggered. Now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney has called a snap election for April 28th, a process which is set to focus on the country's current tense relations with the United States. Carney announced the decision, adding he had requested the Governor General to dissolve Parliament as his procedure to call the early polls. Precisely, Parliament had been due to return on Monday after being prorogued for 2 months, following former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation announcement in early January. Carney's call comes amid a tense political setting in the North American country, where the Liberal Party experienced an unprecedented swing in opinion polls ahead of Conservatives. April election is widely expected to focus on the strained relationship with the U.S. amid threats to Canada's economic and political future.
I've just requested that the Governor General dissolve Parliament and call an election for April 28th. And she had.
And Pope Francis has been discharged from the Gemelli Hospital after spending over a month hospitalized due to a respiratory infection. The Supreme Pontiff of the Catholic Church was hospitalized on February 14th due to a polymicrobial infection of his respiratory tract, with tests indicating a complex clinical picture for one of the oldest popes in the church history. On Saturday, his medical team announced the Pope will be discharged from hospital on Sunday and will need 2 months of rest at the Vatican. Upon leaving, the 88-year-old greeted his well-wishers from a balcony at Gemelli Hospital. Many worshippers and people around the world united in prayers for the Pontiff's health to improve.
I was so happy. It's been a long wait. We've been praying. When I had, right from the point I heard that he was sick, we started praying. I came here the very first day when he was hospitalized. I dedicated my prayer, and I was so happy when I heard that he would come up to give us a blessing. So I'm so happy. I'm so excited.
Actually, he always has a sense of like a sense of youth, but also a sense of joy and a sense of spirit. So I think he's truly not only a good leader in terms of faith, but also in terms of character and morals, right? Always a sense of like joy. You can see the smile on my face. I'm very excited to see him smile and whatnot.
On Sunday, the Russian army liberated the locality of Sribono in the Donetsk region. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that in the last 24 hours there was fighting in the settlement and in other places on the front line. The authorities report that at least 1,160 Ukrainian troops were killed during the day. They also confirmed the destruction of armored vehicles, automobiles, artillery, including a French-made Caesar howitzer. Also, the Russian Defense Ministry announced that the army had shot down some 59 Ukrainian drones in the southwest of the country. The ministry reportedly had shot down 29 unmanned aerial vehicles in Rostov region, 20 in Astrakhan, 3 in Volgograd, and other regions. The entity further denounced that the attacks on civilians in Astrakhan region left damage to residential infrastructure, while Ukrainian forces hit to death a woman under strikes on Rostov. The provinces bordering Ukraine denounced the continuous impacts of projectiles and drone incursions, which forced the population to seek shelter elsewhere. And the Kremlin confirmed that the 2-hour phone call between the Russian President Vladimir Putin and his counterpart Donald Trump was constructive. Presidential spokesperson Dmitry Peskov announced that both leaders agreed on a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia in terms of energy infrastructure. The diplomat referred that the phone call paved the way for new talks between Washington and Moscow. Likewise, the spokesperson advanced that Presidents Putin and Trump may meet soon. Moving on, China reaffirmed its economic policy aimed at boosting domestic consumption on the sessions of the China Development Forum 2025. The director of the Central Rural Leadership Group office, Han Wengshu, granted that he will ramp up labor productivity in order to raise incomes of urban and rural residents. The head explained that the next step will be to focus on key areas to stimulate national demand. In addition, the strategy of such office will bolster breakthrough with a view to increasing life quality of the elderly and stimulating economies in the health and sports areas. And South Africa received the former ambassador to the United States, Ebrahim Rasool, following his expulsion after being declared persona non grata by the Trump administration. According to the U.S. government, the South African politician is inciting racism and hatred against the United States and its president, Donald Trump, during a webinar in which Rasool explained in an academic manner the scope of the coercive measures imposed by Washington against social programs that contribute to equity, migration, and diversity. Rasool also warned against the reduction of the white population in the North American country, while reiterating his condemnation of the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. We now have our second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In Palestine, an Israeli attack caused an explosion in a Gaza refugee camp. As part of the resumption of the Israeli attacks against Palestinian citizens, the Israeli forces carried out incursions and attacks against refugee camps in the Gaza Strip. This Sunday, Israel ordered the evacuation of a refugee camp in the city of Gaza moments before a new aggression. Palestinians face a new wave of displacement, living in tents after having returned to their homes in northern Gaza Strip during the ceasefire.
Suddenly they told us to evacuate the camp. My husband is blind and started running barefoot, and my children were running. We were all confused, did not know where to go. We went out into the street and they asked that no one stay here. Where do people go? We had settled down and gathered some things and settled in the camp. There is no place for a person to settle. Look what is happening to the people. By God, it is a sin that all this is happening.
The Palestinian Center for Human Rights accused Israel of using the lack of water as a weapon to make the Gaza Strip inhospitable. The organization warned that the humanitarian disaster in the region threatens the lives of over 2 million people as they do not have access to basic supplies such as clean water and safe water. In this sense, the PCHR informed that the water and wastewater treatment infrastructures had been severely affected due to the Israeli bombings. The entity further stressed that Tel Aviv's decision to cut off the electricity supply to a desalination plant in Gaza aggravated the humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs denounced that these actions were part of the ethnic cleansing campaign to wipe Palestinians off the map. Meanwhile, in Syria, forces of the de facto government annihilated 72 civilians in the latest 24 hours. Human rights organizations announced that the General Security Forces claimed 58 lives in Tartus and Latakia, while 14 others had been reportedly killed in Aleppo, Damascus, Homs, among other provinces. Those movements further condemned that over 4,000 civilians had been murdered indiscriminately after the overthrow of the Bashar al-Assad government. And the Yemeni army launched an attack against the main airport of Israel in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and after receiving strikes by U.S. weaponry against its civilian and military infrastructure. After the strike to the Ben Gurion International Airport, conducted using a hypersonic ballistic missile, the Yemeni Houthis assured they will continue attacking Tel Aviv until the end of the Zionist aggression against the Gaza Strip. In this context, the Yemenis also confirmed an action with drones and missiles against the U.S. aircraft carrier and several warships of the enemy army in the Red Sea. Tensions in the region have further escalated amid continuing Israeli violations of the ceasefire and U.S. support for the occupation and displacement of the Palestinian territories.
Yemen will continue to support the Palestinian people and prevent Israeli navigation in the previously announced area of operations until the aggression ceases and the siege on the Gaza Strip is lifted.
And dozens of people mobilized in Israel in rejection of the mishandling of the hostage crisis by the Netanyahu's government. Demonstrators gathered outside of the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem to express their disagreement with the measures implemented by the cabinet. Demonstrators affirmed that they have lost confidence in the country's cabinet and demanded that the hostages in Gaza should be returned to their family as soon as possible. On the other hand, citizens rejected the order issued by the Israeli Prime Minister to dismiss the head of the country's internal security service, Ronen Bar, after accusing him of being responsible for the events of October 7, 2023, which served as an excuse to start the war against Gaza. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.